Hey everybody, welcome to the Death Battle Cast. We're live on Tuesday as usual at noon Central, and today we have a very special episode for our wrap-up of the
Skeletober
long-awaited. Well, go for it, I guess.
Skeletober. Sorry, I live for this. I only get to do this like 4 times a month,
Okay.
4 times in 1 month out of the year. That's math. There we go. We got it.
Yep. Well, I mean, this year we did it 5 times, right? Didn't we have a special, like, exclusive 5-time Skeletober Skelebration? Oh, Sam's on it this time. There we go. It just takes 5 times, and then he's got it. All right. Well, hey, everybody, welcome. We are going to be talking about who would win a fight between all of the most powerful classic Universal monsters. It's going to be a doozy. We have a lot to get to, so we can just kind of jump into this. I'm Ben. You know me as the voice of Wiz and Death Battle, joined by Chad, of course, voice of Boomstick. We have a special guest today. It's James Rolfe. Hey, James. What's up, man?
Good.
Dude,
Doing good.
I'm so excited you're here because one, any chance or an excuse we get to work together is great. And man, we were talking, it was just like, man, I don't think we've ever had James on the podcast. And I was like, oh, we got to fix that. And then we were talking about doing this. And we're like, oh, Universal Monsters? And I texted you and you were just like,
a more fun topic. Like, hey, you want me to talk Universal Monsters? Sure. Yeah. That's easy.
It seemed like the perfect chance.
Yeah. For those that don't know, outside of the Angry Video Game Nerd, James runs a channel called Cinemassacre, and James is probably the biggest horror nerd that I know. And especially when it comes to filmmaking in that era and stuff like that. So yeah, this is going to be great. I'm very excited. He's already been like, I don't do as much research as you guys do, but I do have all these bullet points. And this thing, like, just like, you're good. Like, this is going to be great.
Yeah, because you guys go like insane with the deep research and everything. So, but yeah, no, if you think I'm good for this, then yeah, like let's go, let's do it. Yeah.
If you have not seen James's Monster Madness series, you do it like basically every year, right?
Yeah, basically in all different shapes and forms. So this year we're doing a tribute to Roger Corman, which is, we lost Roger Corman, the great legendary independent filmmaker, like the king of the indie filmmakers, this past, this year. So basically for this month, Monster Madness, we're doing a bunch of videos about movies that he's directed or produced. And one of them I did, the Edgar Allan Poe series. I did all 8 of his Poe films as one review. It's like it's pushing like 40 minutes long, that video. So if you're going to see one of them, I'd say see that one because that was a ton of work. We got one more to go on Halloween. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So go to Cinemassacre to check that out and all the other Monster Madness and of course Angry Video Game Nerd videos over there. So let's talk about, we also have another person here.
The chat's just been like,
wait, here he comes.
Oh, hi guys, how's it going?
Good.
You sounded exactly like Jim Carrey's grit with teeth outside.
I was gonna say Billy, the voice of Ringmaster's here, but it sounds like we actually have the Wolf Man.
I don't know what you're talking about. I feel fine.
Wow.
I got bitten by a big dog earlier, but I don't think anything really happened.
Okay. So do we still refer to you as Billy?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to see you, Billy.
Man.
You're looking fine today. Looking pretty
Thank
good.
You.
Excellent, manly.
I feel great.
Yeah, your glasses are a little, maybe skew over a little bit, but
it's good to me.
Okay, I mean, that's what really matters. All right. So yes, we are talking Wolfman. We are talking Dracula. We are talking Frankenstein, Mummy, Invisible Man, the Gill Man, all the classic monsters. So let's go ahead and jump into this and get talking about it. Though I do also should probably mention, if you haven't seen it yet, there is a new Death Battle episode out. Should probably go check out that Joker vs. Giorno. Pretty fun, pretty good. Animation team freaking killed it. Music team freaking killed it. It's pretty good. And also shout out to Max as well, the editor for the episode. He did some very unique sort of stylistic choices for it that I think really showcase like what independent Death Battle is looking to do moving forward. I'm very excited about the future with that. Okay, so I figure the way we'll do this, at least at first, is we'll each sort of introduce a monster and kind of pick our favorite, I suppose, or maybe, you know, one that we actually know about. Give a little bit of background about it in case anybody who's watching isn't as aware of what they are. And then we
Even if
just
you're
kind of
not
will go
necessarily,
free
like,
form.
even if it's not necessarily the winner you're going to pick, but just to introduce them and get them into the battle, right?
Somebody
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
just
really
talking
like.
about
You know,
some
I,
monster.
I call the mummy. I call the mummy.
No,
That's a
no,
natural fit.
no, bad dog. We talked about this.
I can't have the mummy. All right.
No,
Well, all
I
right.
got the
So
mummy.
Well,
the great
let's-
Lon Chaney Jr. didn't just play the mummy; he also played Dracula. So how about that?
There you go.
I mean,
Well-
I could talk about Dracula a little bit.
Oh well, I mean,
I mean,
he-
you seem
he
like
played
you know a little
Frankenstein's
bit
monster
about.
as well. Is that a good fit?
I think I don't know. James might be talking about Frankenstein's monster.
Who
I don't
else
mean
did
to
he play?
stereotype or anything, Mr. Billy Burson, but like, could you talk a little bit about the man that is a wolf?
Oh, the Wolfman. That's not a bad fit. All right, give me 1 sec to.
Oh,
I need to brush up there. Sorry.
No, I did not need that in my headphones, man. God.
You're welcome, everybody.
Audio only listeners, sorry about that.
Yeah. Audio only
My-
listeners are probably confused as hell because Billy always does visual bits. So
Yes. So Wolfman. Every man who's pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright, or the full moon in some interpretations. Larry Talbot found himself bitten by a large wolf-like creature, and suddenly found himself cursed. Now, even in his original human form, he found himself healing from nearly any wound, possessed of enhanced strength and keen animal-like senses. And he's got that riz. He got himself up to a observatory in the stately manor he was staying at and used the telescope there to get street level views of the town somehow. Spied a pretty lady in the antique shop across the way. Got really creepy, but somehow still got a relationship going with her. But as a part of that, they went out on a stroll on an autumn night and he encountered that wolf. Turns out on autumn nights or under a full moon sometimes, he becomes the feral wolfman. Unable to end his existence and tormented, unable to kill himself, he lives on, terrorizing, hunting, monstrous. He's met Alvin and the Chipmunks. He's attacked the lightning fast freakazoid. Oh, and he handed the monster and Dracula their ass. Sure, he's been
I
put
don't know
down
about
now and
that.
again, but not even death can stop the Wolfman because what is dead may never die.
All right. Well,
That's great.
speaking of,
you got the ice and fire crossover there. Great. Thank you.
speaking of which, I can talk a little bit to Dracula because I think Dracula's a shoo-in for this. Because come on, it's freaking Dracula. Dracula was literally schooled, trained, and chosen and given power by the devil. He is an actual count from Transylvania. He is of royalty. He is, while Dracula as a vampire has several weaknesses, I really don't expect any of those weaknesses to come into play here at all. I don't know if Wolfman's carrying around a wood stake typically, or a cross, for example, but Dracula's main ability that's going to be, I think, integral here is his power over others' will. Dracula can bite people like a vampire does to turn them into his thralls and essentially control them, even if he doesn't kill them and turn them into a vampire. One bite will kind of hypnotize you in a way that makes you drawn to him. You have to go to him, you have to find him, and then he kills you anyway. Or he can just kind of point at you and say, hey, I want you to do this thing, and then you'll do it. You have to have a very, very strong willpower to sort of outpower his ability to charm you, to hypnotize you, to get you to do as he says. So I think he's just got to kind of stand around and point at monsters to go kill each other or turn them into his thralls and let them do all the hard work for him because he's Dracula and he's kind of a genius that way. But I don't imagine the mummy is going to have any way to beat him, right, Chad?
Please. So first of all, the mummy also, Imhotep, our Lord and Savior, he also has the ability to kind of hypnotize and control people just with a stare, sometimes with his mere presence. And then also weirdly, if there's like an ancestral tie to like his people, then he can like really control you and make you serve him. But I mean, dude, Imhotep, ancient Egyptian sorcerer, whose only crime was love. Okay, his only crime was love, and they killed him for it and disgraced his tomb, preventing his soul from moving on to the afterlife until he was, resurrected. I mean, the mummy is like powerful beyond like imagining. I mean, he's lifted rivers, he's turned into gigantic sand walls, he's been shot, stabbed, thrown things at. He can control plagues, pestilence, scarab beetles, and the only thing he just really doesn't like is fire. But I mean, Imhotep at his full power, once he's recollected his body pieces, I mean, he's skilled in hand-to-hand combat. He's got it, man. I don't know. We're working on a power level that I don't know if the other monsters can match.
Okay, well,
and does not have blood
because we have so many mummies. So I feel like we have to talk about Imhotep and Karis as the mummy because they are both very different. But I think when you say the mummy, I think we're bringing both those mummies into it.
Yeah,
even
so
if they sort of lump into one character in the end, but
there you go, perfect. Sure. I'm coming in with the current knowledge. You can back me up on the classics there, which will probably provide more weaknesses. So I don't know if I like that.
Talking about like the recent mummies as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who do you want to bring into this first, James?
Well, I'll bring the Frankenstein monster into it. He's a very interesting monster. First of all, just he has so many he has not one identity. He has like multiple identities. His brain comes from somebody. His limbs come from somebody. It's just a combination of different bodies. And his father was Frankenstein. His mother was the Lightning. So in terms of strength, the monster has to be one of the strongest. I mean, we see him push over so many giant pieces of lab equipment, which usually spark and explode. He's pushed over in Bride of Frankenstein. You see him push over this gigantic tombstone and then go inside into like a crypt. So he has some serious strength. And then just to think about all the types of things he's survived. I mean, he has survived fire multiple times, explosions. The explosion that he survives in Bride of Frankenstein presumably kills the bride, but not the monster, which is unfortunate. I mean, I would love to have the bride in this whole thing, but the bride, we don't have a lot of information to go by, despite being one of the most iconic monsters. She's only seen at the end of the movie. And then after that explosion, it's assumed that she dies or is just never found again. So the monster continues, and then he also gets preserved in a sulfur pit and then in an ice cavern. So he's survived like just about everything.
Okay. And then also Thor G in the chat says, Frankenstein lightning timed in the Ghost of Frankenstein because so apparently he's dodged lightning.
He's been energized by there's a lot of inconsistencies here, but Son of Frankenstein, they say that the lightning is what put him into his dormant state. And then in Ghost of Frankenstein, it's the opposite. Now the lightning energizes him.
So did he like catch a bolt of lightning or something like that?
Yeah, it hits him right in his bolt. Like I'm pretty sure if you look at the
but did he like intentionally go for it? Because what they're looking for right now is they're basically saying reaction speed is
he saw lightning coming
to
down.
I don't think
jump away.
Okay, that's interesting. I feel like it's his reflex from getting hit by the lightning. I have to look at the scene again, but I feel like he gets hit by it because then he stands up again, and then Igor says, "Oh, the lightning! Like it's making you stronger." And then it's like, "We must go to Ludwig, the second son of Frankenstein, and we must harness the power of the lightning to make you stronger." So I think that's what it is. He's not dodging it. He wants it.
I will say, is the lightning attracted to him? Like, would he need to jump in front of it?
That's
or
what
something
the
like
bolts are for.
I mean, I guess the bolts are all it took for the lightning.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's necessarily lightning timing. Maybe the lightning is just attracted to him. But I am curious. What about his mental, abilities? Would he be able to withstand Dracula telling him, "Hey, go strangle that mummy over there"?
All right. So the monster is definitely now this isn't playing it. I'm not like, because we're not fighting for any monster yet. We're just bringing all the evidence to the table. Right. So, okay. The monster, he has like a first time like a trial and error type of thing. Like, you know, the whole psychology, you know, you burn your hand on a hot stove, you never do that again. That's what the monster is. The monster learns from everything that happens to him. He learns to speak in Bride of Frankenstein. He's a very good learner, but he has to fuck up once.
He's
We
doomsday.
can swear here, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So-
You're good. Don't
So
worry,
the
James.
monster, this is just an example. In Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Pretorius has to get the monster to go to sleep at one point because he's bothering them. They're working on the bride, and the monster's impatient, and he's a huge distraction in the lab. So Dr. Pretorius is like, "Hey, here, come over here, have a drink." And you've seen movies where somebody like poisons a drink, right? And usually, what do? They do it like, you know, hidden, or they do it first to their own drink and then they switch it, right? There's some kind of sneaky part of it. Dr. Pretorius puts the poison in the drink, or not poison, but whatever it is, the tranquilizer, puts it in the drink right in front of the monster's face and like laughs at him while he's doing it. And the monster just takes it because he has no concept of what that is. He doesn't know that there exists something that can just put him to sleep. So now that it's happened, he's probably more, you know, he would be more aware of that a second time. It's like, you know, you fooled me once, you know, that kind of thing.
So it's more of an inexperienced thing, but that does then, I guess Dracula's commanding is less like knowledge and more willpower. And Frankenstein's monster does have a pretty strong sense of self by the end of it, right?
By the end of like each movie, or by the end of like
so what we would probably do is look at like everything that the monster's experienced and gone through and assume that now he knows that, like, to avoid that type of stuff, right?
Oh boy, well then you gotta get into the brain transplants. On Ghost of Frankenstein, it's Igor's brain in the body, so it's a new brain starting with that movie. And Igor, he's a, you know, evil motherfucker. I mean, he's like, so now the monster is much more dangerous, except then he goes blind. Now we're getting into all kinds of shit because
I just love Doug in the chat's like, James doing a great job with the classic monster knowledge. And I'm like, you don't even know. They're just barely scratching the surface. Like
he debatably regains his sight at the end of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman when he wakes up on that slab. How else does he fight the Wolfman? You do see it happen where like he blinks his eyes awake. All they needed was a shot to clarify, to have like a, you know, like a POV where it's blurry and then it goes clear. The thing is, they changed that fact because there's no continuity back then, because this is before DVD and everything. They didn't care. So in Ghost of Frankenstein, he goes blind at the end and speaks. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. They decided to change that last minute. They cut out all the lines and any explanation that the monster's blind. And that's why you get him walking with his arms outstretched. So that whole cliche actually didn't start with Karloff. It started with Lugosi. He kind of established that famous walk.
Yeah,
but
because he was blind. I didn't know. We're learning so much. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna go on some tangents here, but
Speaking of Lugosi, Vampire Nevermore in the chat says, in Son of Dracula, Dracula can induce heart attacks in people to kill them, and vampires do have healing factors. I know he can't like heal like from like a severed like limb or something like that, I don't think, but yeah, he can heal from wounds. But yeah, he can just look at somebody and cause a heart attack. So, you know, that's going to be fun. Though you brought up Frankenstein versus Wolfman. And so I'm curious because I don't know what happens in that. Who wins that?
Well, it's debatable. It's kind of like,
funny you should
Freddy
mention
versus
that.
Jason. It's like
I was
all
going to say,
those,
is it a
like,
Freddy versus Jason thing? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla, the original, where it's like very ambiguous. So, but I think the Wolfman, he kind of gets the last, you know, attack. But the thing is, the monster is really strong, much stronger than the Wolfman. We see it happen. He just tosses him all around the place. He keeps like pushing stuff over. The Wolfman sees this too. You could see he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to change my strategy here. The Wolfman likes to get up on things and jump on him from a high place, and he does it at least 3 times. So I think the Wolfman, it's really like, if there's a will, there's a way. He's like, I'm going to figure you out, and I'm going to take you down no matter what.
It's a very Hulk versus Wolverine fight for its era.
Yeah, and now the way it ends,
Hulk versus Wolverine.
yeah, they're interrupted by a flood, so they don't actually finish their fight. So everything is debatable, but we do see the Wolfman leaping onto the monster just before the water rushes in. So
a flood, one of the few things that can actually kill Dracula for some reason. Running water.
you know, yeah. I mean, that's one of the dumbest things. I mean, I don't know if it's permanently killed Dracula in any movie. If you count like Dracula,
I don't know if you
Prince
can
of
actually
Darkness.
kill him. I know it hurts.
Yeah, well, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, he's frozen under a lake, and then in Dracula has risen from the grave. All it takes is a trickle of blood to revive him. So
there you go.
I don't think it may have stopped him, temporarily.
Lake is still water, though. It's not running water, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty shitty way. I mean, there's even a moment in Dracula AD 1972 where Johnny Alucard, who's Dracula's familiar in that movie, there's a scene where like he sees sunlight or light or something hits him in the face, and then he staggers back and falls into a bathtub. It's like, okay, sunlight and water, like you're really fucked.
Apom and Mimikyu says, was it a holy flood? Yeah, that would make a little bit more.
Are there holy like Catholic wafers in the water?
Yeah, like at the end they bless it and then release the dam, like
my memory of it is kind of like about the life-giving nature of water and the fact that it's moving as a result of that in the literature. But I don't think they bothered to explain it.
There's a reason for it, but it's been sort of like simplified, I think. I mean, the same thing for the sunlight, right? Like in the original novel, Dracula doesn't get burned and killed by sunlight. He just loses his power.
Yeah.
But then in most of the movies, he will just burst into flames.
Yeah.
Oh well. And we're going by the movies here, not the original book. I mean, I could bring in the book if we want to bring in modern.
I feel like, so it's interesting you say that because Thorgy in the chat or the super chat said, so in the novel follow-up to the films, the Gillman, which we're going to get to because I know James really wants to talk about him, gets a lot more powerful, including weather control, geokinesis, mind control of small armies, and molecular disintegration via touch.
Okay, I don't know about that last one.
I don't either.
If you're bringing in the novels, then Frankenstein gets a huge boost in intelligence.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Sorry, Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, that's what I was
I'm
thinking.
a simple
when I was
wolf man.
talking about, like by the end of it, he does have a pretty strong sense of himself in the book. Frankenstein's monster, right? So like maybe Dracula wouldn't be able to control him, but maybe Dracula could control Wolfman because not only does he have power of mind control, Dracula controls animals.
Interesting, yeah. And he can turn into a wolf himself as well. So
that's true.
That's one of those. Dracula and the Wolfman have some very interesting like crossover because the Wolfman's probably faster normally, but Dracula can close that gap by turning into a wolf. He can control wolves, which unfortunate for the Wolfman. But they're both very difficult to
happen.
Yep, right.
Yeah, but if the fight takes place indoors, Dracula can't even participate unless he's invited.
Yeah. That's a pretty shitty rule too. He needs an invitation. Yeah, I know.
I mean, like this hardcore battle happening, and then you just look, and Dracula's just there in the window. Like, please.
I mean, he can still control people through the window.
It's true.
I mean, the thing with Dracula is he doesn't need to be part of the brawl, right? He can like command people to do things and then just walk away, turn into a bat and fly away, or into mist when you can't even hurt him. He's
it's
just like
kind of one of the things the Universal Dracula does. He will often kind of hang back in big fights and he'll turn tail if he feels like nuts to this. I'm out of here. Because
what happens during that. So Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So one time we see the Wolfman fight Dracula. There actually was going to be a Dracula versus Wolfman. The script exists, but the movie doesn't. They canceled it. But anyway, at the end of that movie, Wolfman is chasing after Dracula, and Dracula's like tossing shit at him and everything. But then Dracula's big mistake. He turns into a bat, thinks he's going to fly away. And as soon as that happens, the Wolfman sees his opportunity. He's like, where do you think you're going? And just jumps at him, grabs him in bat form. Even if he goes down with him, doesn't care. He's like, let's see you handle this.
Okay.
So,
they both fall into the ocean and die.
How does that fight end?
That's it. They
just fall into the ocean?
They fall in the ocean and die.
I mean, I would just assume that they survived it just as well as everything else, but there is no other movie. It all matters if there's another film.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
wait, does Dracula ever take control? Because I've never seen Abbott and Costello meet Dracula.
It's very weird because the fight between them is just like two dudes wrestling over a chair.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a comedy, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Del
it's
Cine
almost
was
like,
counterpoint. The fight takes place in Dracula's castle. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
I mean,
Also,
maybe
Gelatin
he
Man
could.
said $10 for you specifically, Billy, for your commitment. So we'll get that to you.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
You could say he's invited everybody. Dracula invites people to his castle, right? He
Yeah.
sends out
He's the host.
invitations.
He's
to
the Mad
everybody.
Monster Party. You know,
Yeah.
there's the Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
Those are fun
Yeah.
movies, yeah.
No, those are great. Yeah, Adam Sandler. I'm
Wait,
sure
is
made a
that?
lot of
Are
money.
we also including that? No.
Well,
The Adam
yeah,
Sandler
well,
Dracula?
So Mad Monster Party, Hotel Transylvania. How about Monster Squad? I mean, that's a good one.
There you go. And then at this point, we gotta include Dracula Dead and Loving It and getting Leslie Nielsen's Dracula in here, right?
Yeah, that's right.
mind you, if we're including Monster Squad and such, I'm gonna get I have nards to hit. So like,
Oh, that's right.
Somebody
Yeah.
mentioned that earlier.
Wolfman's got nards. Common fact. Common
Nards.
fact.
There we go. Dracula's weakness: sunlight, holy symbols, running water. Wolfman's weakness: the nards.
But so does
relatable.
Frankenstein's monster if we're counting young Frankenstein.
I would
Right?
assume they all have nards.
Okay.
Maybe not Dracula, but
Well, maybe not the Gill Man, right?
So
Let's talk about him because
if you go by oh my god, Lady in the Water. What the fuck? The Shape of Water.
yeah.
yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. Okay, I'm not.
That's true.
There might be something down there.
Is it the same Gill Man?
No, it's. I mean,
Okay. I was like,
it's a type
but
of
you
Gill
know
Man,
that's the idea. They want.
Yeah.
It's like the Gill Man.
It's a new take on it, or a different take on it. Okay, well, it was mentioned in chat earlier that the Gilman has like weather control. I know Dracula, of course, famously has weather control or can kind of manipulate the weather, summon lightning storms and things like that. But let's bring in the Gilman because I feel like the conversation at the moment has been kind of circular. And I'm curious if we bring in somebody like the Gilman with some of these more extreme powers that might knock out one of these other characters.
Yeah, well, the Gill Man is super strong. If you actually like think about, he doesn't have the opportunity usually to cause as much damage as the monster because he's usually like in the lagoon. And that's like one thing is like he is usually would just retreat into the lagoon. Like he usually wants to get away from people, so you don't really have the opportunity as often, except when he's going after Julie Adams. But in Revenge of the Creature, they take him to like a SeaWorld type of like aquarium, like theme park, and he gets loose. And there's a part where he tips over a car, and it's badass. And then then in Creature Walks Among Us, that's the one where he gets a lung transplant. They turn him into a land creature, so now he can stay in land longer. And I mean, this pisses him off, and it also seems like now he's as strong as you could imagine, because when he gets loose, he pushes over a brick pillar that's like attached to an electric fence, and just sparks fly and everything. If you look at that one moment, you're like, oh, holy shit, that's like as strong as the Frankenstein monster, or maybe even stronger. So not to mention he's got the claws. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a pretty strong beast.
Yeah, that's sorry. Once he got a lung transplant, because of course they did, so that he could be on land longer.
Max, our very own editor Max in chat mentions Dracula is weak to silver and Larry has a cane with a silver top. Oh no.
That's what I kind of hinted at it during the little bit I gave. He's got most of his powers as a man. The Wolfman portion kind of weakens him in the traditional movies. If you're talking 2010, that's not necessarily the case, but like the original ones, he's kind of a beast any way you cut it. And he's got silver weaponry with him. That's actually much like Dracula. That's one of the only ways to put him down.
Yeah. Although he is killed by his own silver cane in the first.
I was about to say, isn't that like carrying your own weakness around with you? Like that's a really easy opportunity.
You want to be the Wolfman. It just happens.
Yeah. So it could go either way, but because are there any others that are weak to silver? Is it just those two?
Well, they do say Dracula's weak to silver too, but it depends which movie. It depends, it's pretty common. Yeah, silver for a vampire as well.
Dracula, Wolfman, but I don't think anybody else in this. Invisible Man is not weak to silver, right? I mean, Invisible Man at the end of the day is just an invisible
He's
guy with a
probably
gun,
the most
right?
mortal. Yeah, the Invisible
Yeah.
Man is the most mortal, but he's also invisible. Now the only person who I think would not have a problem with that actually is the Wolfman, because
He'd
he's going
smell
to
him.
sniff the Invisible Man
Smell-
out. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
true.
you know,
'cause
Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, see, I saw a comment earlier. We were talking about, Dracula like looking inside or whatever, and but then also the Invisible Man just like biding his time, just like waiting for the shot. But the I didn't think of the Wolfman argument. He would smell him. That's for sure.
Wolfman's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah,
Just grabs this invisible guy, then he's dead. I mean, once
That's
they
it,
grab
yeah,
him,
they
it's
crush him.
done, right? I
I mean-
feel like maybe he can get, and also as soon as he takes one out, if he is able to, everybody's gonna know he's there. So
right.
I
I mean,
don't.
in spite of that, Invisible Man has the highest body count of all the monsters we're talking about here in the movies, right?
So does he?
True.
So
But a normal bullet isn't gonna do anything against the Wolfman, right?
no,
No.
I believe he tanks a couple of them in the original film, and he's fine. He gets caught in a bear trap, and it slows him down because he's too animalistic to get out of it. But it doesn't, majorly hurt him, and he heals up instantly once he's free of it. The 2010 one I mentioned, he can't be hurt at all by conventional weaponry. Only fire and silver weapons do anything to him. And that version of him, he's crazy. He's like strong as 20 men. He's jumping out of pits 12 feet deep. He's jumping off 8-story buildings. He's ripping people's heads off with a swipe. That version of him, I'll take those feats.
I
Even
feel like
survives
to
the
bring-
silver bullets in House of Frankenstein, because if you go by the fact that there's always these sequels and complete disregard to continuity, the Wolfman comes back after the silver bullets too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And kind of
that's
just like
interesting.
Dracula, you kill him, you put him down, he's a corpse. If he gets exposed to moonlight and the silver's not there to stop him, he's back, baby.
Yeah,
That's interesting. Because I was thinking like, again, you just bringing your own weakness into the battle with the silver cane. Like I picture, Gilman or Frankenstein's monster just grabbing that thing and just like, bam, like, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen. Ram the silver cane through the heart. Wolfman's out of it. But I mean, they all come back because of the disregard for continuity. So it's continuity. So like, I mean, I guess we would. That's another thing, James. We talk about in death battles, like when people can resurrect, like. Basically, it's like how quickly, right? It's like,
yeah.
do they just like heal and like then they're still in the fight, or is this a like?
I mean, the
So-
majority of these are like rituals bring them back, right?
Yeah.
So none. Do any of them come back on their own?
Yeah, Dracula and Wolfman. They'll come
pretty-
back.
I mean, it really
right?
depends which movie, but yeah, a lot of times Dracula, it is some kind of ritual.
Yeah.
Not all the time. And then Wolfman, sometimes it's completely unexplained, like in House of Dracula. There's no explanation whatsoever. But then
It's just there.
like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, they open up his tomb and the moonlight hits him, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, that's a good point though. How long does it take for them? Can they do it on their own? Can they resurrect
Yeah.
them?
And how
None
long
of
does it
them necessarily resurrect immediately. So I don't know if that necessarily, like, in a death battle, when you're dead, you're dead. Like that's the end of the battle, unless you can come back right away. And
Yeah.
it negates the death essentially.
Yeah,
speaking of,
Dracula, they just pull a stake out of the skeleton and then he regenerates again. And then
So if somebody
actually,
stakes him, but then somebody
like,
accidentally takes the stake
what
out,
if
he's
it-
back in it.
like, what if it fell out by itself?
yeah, right. Like, and then just slowly,
All right.
it's just very
the
slowly falling
mummy-
out.
Is the mummy
So-
the only one that really needs a ritual to be kind of there? Because he's got the scroll, right? That's keeping him
to
active. We're talking
exist.
That's true. Well, initially, yeah, but then if you go by the Karras mummy, he basically survives like fire movie after movie, and just it's like, oh, the fire only damaged him, and now he's back. So he's basically Michael Myers. It's just like he gets fucked up, but he keeps on going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
So
right.
mean,
in
that's the thing.
Monster Squad, though, they just unbandage him and he's done. That's it. Just pull the bandages off. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
okay.
well,
I think
luckily-
unless anybody has any argument against it, I think it's safe to say Invisible Man's not winning this. Wolfman takes him out pretty quick.
Do we think? Okay, in a battle royale scenario, is the Invisible Man taking anyone out of this fight?
Can
I don't.
anybody except Wolfman can't, but can anybody else die from a gunshot?
Definitely not the Mummy. 'Cause he shot a
No.
lot.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's
none of the
monster's
others-
taking some bullets at some point, right?
I
So
think it's just because he's so
Dracula-
mortal. And actually, to tell you the truth, he is the only Universal monster that never did come back because the sequels were different Invisible Men.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there we
and
go.
Invisible
Because
Woman
the-
as well.
Yeah.
How about the
Yeah,
Gillman? That
Dracula
like
requires
that.
a decapitation. Well, some versions of Dracula require decapitation. So if not burned alive or whatever. So I don't know if a bullet would necessarily be enough to take out Dracula, although it would hurt him. Like
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it would hurt him. Yeah, I think unless he's got unless Monster Society, unless he's got a silver bullet somehow. I don't believe he ever had one. I think Invisible Man's out and doesn't really affect the fight other than distracting Wolfman, which could give Dracula an opportunity, but who knows?
Mm.
Also, he has to fight naked,
That's true. Yeah.
He's dangling.
which I feel is a disadvantage.
We talked about Nards before. One
Yeah,
of them just
they
got
always
him
talk
out.
about the Wolfman's Nard.
Okay, so we're down to 5, and I do feel like we need to talk a little bit about the Mummy because we haven't talked that much about it. But before we do that, I do want to do a quick little break. Talk about, we don't have a sponsor for this week's episode, but I did want to talk a little bit about a couple things. One, we did have a sponsor on Joker vs. Giorno, and for the first time ever, Marvel Snap sponsored us. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who clicked that link under the video. And went to the app because that does like show up on their end and lets them know like, hey, this death battle show is kind of good for us to invest in. And going into the independent era, I don't want to be like the guy who shills all the
Go
time or
click
whatever.
the link
but
again. Go
at
click the link
the
again.
moment, since we're just starting this independent era, it's huge whenever you guys click those links and go through to those websites and support the sponsors, because they're supporting us, and their support of us just makes your support for Death Battle through the Kickstarter last longer and build that up even further. So it's all one big thing. So appreciate the support there. I also wanted to say, speaking of the Kickstarter, if you have not filled out your surveys yet that have been
Fill out your
sent
survey.
to the email, please fill them out. That's how we get shirts to people. That's how we make sure we get the vinyl albums to people who are getting those. Any kind of rewards that you're getting from the Kickstarter require those surveys filled out in order for us to get them to you. And those will be something we are going to be filling out into next year or so. But the sooner you get the surveys to us, the better. Those should be in your email, specifically the email that is tied to your Kickstarter account. So please check those out if you have not filled your surveys or sent in those surveys yet. Essentially, again, it's just like filling out a delivery address and things like that. And also getting your name in for the credits. If you have if you got a tier that puts you in the credits of one of these first 4 episodes, there's only 2 left. So if you want to get in those and you haven't yet, check your email for that. Speaking of which, I did want to clarify something, because I've seen a lot of people talking about last week. I talked about how I hadn't seen anybody predict what our 4th episode is. So next episode that's coming up in a couple weeks is Bowser versus Eggman, which is going to be super fun. Moro's worked on that animation and it's just like incredible.
It's nuts.
Shout out to the whole team for all the incredible work they're putting in for that one. But I did see I hadn't seen anybody predict what the 4th episode that we're making is going to be, and I think I've learned why. So I guess at some point somebody, either we said something wrong or somebody interpreted something wrong about us saying that we have a Tournament of Champions fight coming up, and that's now been like taken as the final one is a Tournament of Champions matchup somewhere, which is not necessarily true. I think it might have been misconstrued from we might have been talking about Tom versus Wily at one point, and that might have gotten mixed up somewhere, and now there's a little bit of misinformation there. Just a heads up, it might be something a little different. Anyway, so just letting you know, I will say in exchange for that, so that you are have something else to go on, maybe. It is a matchup that we weren't sure about, and then you guys convinced us it would be an awesome episode.
And there's a good handful of those, so good luck.
All right. So, but that's all I'm
wait,
going to say on that.
Okay, but before we get back to the debate, let's give James a chance to promote whatever's been going on with it. James, I know you just dropped a new nerd episode. You've got your band. You're doing Monster Madness. You're always so busy. Thank you again for popping on for the show. So what do you want to shill?
Well, I
This is
mean,
the shilling half hour, I guess.
yeah. We already talked about Monster Madness. You mentioned the nerd. I just did a review of Nosferatu, the Super Nintendo game. So you could time that with, the Nosferatu movie coming out. Oh shit, that's right. Christmas Day it comes out. So, but yeah, that's the whole joke in the episode. I just use that as like a way to get into it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun making that episode. Miserable time playing the game, but hey, it's always fun. Just putting that all together and just it's very therapeutic to play a game that's insanely frustrating and then get to tell people what you went through and make it into something humorous. So it never gets old to me. So much fun. I got some other big stuff coming on the way, but nothing is like ready right now at the moment. So I'm just gonna say happy Halloween and watch the last Monster Madness installment this month on Halloween Day.
I saw some people in the chat saying they were going to be checking out Monster Madness after all these facts you've been dropping. So yeah, you'll get a good. You'll learn a lot.
Oh, nice.
If you're part of that death battle audience that really loves to learn about characters and the way things were created and things like that, definitely go check out Cinemassacre. You'll learn a lot about.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Actually, aside from Max helping me out, which a bunch with research, which shout out to Max, I watched a bunch of James's videos to get caught up to speed on a bunch of stuff I watched ages ago. So it's great stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so let's get back to the discussion because we have 5 monsters left out of the 6 that we've brought up, and we do need to narrow this down to 4 for the vote by the end of the this podcast. So I'm curious, amongst the 4 of us, if we look at these 5 monsters, which would be Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, the Gillman, and Wolfman. We need to figure out which one we think would get kicked out. But Chad, I want to talk a little bit about the Mummy because we haven't really talked too much about what he's capable of.
Yeah. That's
he
because
does use a ring. He has like a ring, I think, on his hand, Imhotep, and he kind of stops everybody with that. So he does have magical abilities for sure.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so again, aside from the can control people and things like that, I mean, he can turn himself into sand as big as basically a skyscraper.
Oh yeah. If you're going the first Brendan Fraser movie,
yeah.
From like this big face out of the sand.
And also we were talking about the reason I got real quiet about the Mummy is because then we start talking about throwing around lab equipment and stuff, and I'm like, I'll chill on this for a little bit because I mean and also one of the weaknesses is moving water and stuff. In one of the movies, he lifted a river and slammed it into a helicopter or something like that. So his magic is incredibly powerful. So if there's a nearby body of water, he's flooding Dracula no problem. He doesn't have blood. He when he's damaged, you see sand and stuff come off of him. So Dracula's not biting him. I'm very much in camp. Mummy wins this for sure.
Yeah, if you use those mummies, for sure. I mean, that's insane. That's way more than what the Universal mummies ever did, especially Karras. I mean, he just walks around, like this the whole time. He always catches his victim, but gets them into a corner. But that's it. And he just strangles people. But yeah, you're talking a whole new level with that mummy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Universal mummy, right?
It is Universal. They made it. Yeah, I mean, there's also that 2017 mummy, which I mean, that movie was all over the place.
The Tom Cruise one.
Yeah.
No. God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So there is such a distinct difference in power, I guess, between the classic Mummy and the more modern takes on it, right? So I do think that is an example where we maybe do need to separate them in this regard.
Fine. But so classic Mummy, at least, I mean, just always has apparently fire's supposed to be his big weakness, right? But apparently has repeatedly survived fire. It just
how do you kill the Mummy, the original Mummy?
I mean, the best killing of the mummy was the Monster Squad, but we already went over. But like, how do you kill him? The final in the Mummy's Curse, he just falls under a bunch of debris, like a bunch. The ceiling collapses.
He gets
on him.
shredded.
Just buried.
Yeah, but then he comes back. Well, there's a different mummy in the Abbott and Costello one, which is Clarice. So that one is more or less the same as Karis. But I don't know. I think at that point you're definitely in a different mummy. So
I don't. It's interesting. I don't know if the mummy could be controlled by Dracula. I know that the current one, there's like no way, because he also like manipulates people and he's powerful sorcerer and stuff. But like, but old mummy, I don't know. He's very one track mind. It's just kill.
But
Like,
Frankenstein's monster would overpower the mummy, right?
I think so, except the original Imhotep mummy does have like the ring, and he stops people with the magic and everything. So it might be a little different. But then I would assume that he's also very brittle, because he establishes in there, he definitely says, I don't like to be touched. Like somebody goes, like shake his hand or something. So that probably implies that he's very fragile. So
I could definitely see a scene like classic mummy, and it's like, the fight's happening, and then Frankenstein's monster just yeets him across just like he bounces off the wall. Like,
yeah.
But I think he'd pick himself up, and then he'd go back to shambling, go for some strangling.
What?
Yeah.
Because what does the ring like do specifically? Because like Dracula's mind control is based on willpower, right? His will overtakes yours. Does the ring just paralyze people?
I would have to look again. As I recall, he has a ring on his finger, but he also has a knife in his hand, I think, when he does it. So I don't know if it is the ring or if it's just his generic powers. But it is kind of similar to Dracula, where he has like the hypnosis and everything. That's a really good question. Like if Dracula's hypnosis versus the mummy's hypnosis would be, effective.
Because if Dracula like turned Frankenstein's monster against the mummy, and then the mummy was like freeze, could Dracula then overpower that and be like, no, Mr. Franklin's gonna beat you up?
I gotta say, if we're talking team ups,
Yeah.
I don't know that the mummy can't be cursed by the Wolfman. So maybe we're pairing up here.
Wait, the Wolfman can curse the mummy?
Why not?
Wolf
mummy? Turn him wolf?
Then give him the ability to heal. He loses that vulnerability that he's got to...
Is it not transferred by blood, though?
The mummy...
You should know this.
There's a
I'm a simple feral
wolf
man.
Yeah.
So the mummy could become a vampire and a werewolf.
Again, I don't know
about
werewolf
first, then vampire, right? Like it's got to be in that order.
I would assume that classic mummy also doesn't have blood, just from like the embalming process, and the mummification process, right? I know that current mummy doesn't. So I don't think there's a blood thing there to be for him to be turned into anything. As cool as that would be.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay. I mean, he does give a blood transfusion to somebody in House of Dracula, so maybe he can transfuse blood into it would be transfusing blood into somebody who has no blood, but does he have veins at that point at all?
So after we put the mummy on dialysis, then he's coming. Then you watch out, because Wolf Mumpire is coming for everyone. James, there's your next film. Are these public domain? Come on, like you could.
What if the mummy became a wolfman and a vampire?
Yeah,
don't give me ideas.
Wolf mummy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. Okay. But then the Gill Man has all these like crazy supernatural powers as well. So
explain those to get into that a little bit. Where's all those supernatural powers coming from?
So they were talking about it. Somebody put it in the chat earlier that apparently there's a book that's like a follow-up to like the Monsterverse or whatever. And the Gill Man gets he controls weather. He has like telekinesis, what they're saying, can disintegrate people to a touch. So apparently the Gill Man gets crazy. Let me see if I can find.
Does he disintegrate anybody in the movie? I don't think that's
no. I mean, if you're going by literary literature, you're gonna get all kinds of stuff because there's like
It's a
like
huge
then
can
it's
of-
like we can use any fan fiction basically. I think it's more like if it's from the original canon or if it's a remake that was actually authorized, you know.
Yeah. So let's move away from that novel for now, and let's talk about Gilman
Mhm.
and what he actually can do in the movies, and then we'll lock down which one to remove before we get to the vote.
Mm.
What is Gilman bringing to this? What can he do?
Mostly strength. He like once he is the land Gilman, then he's like, I mean, I guess when he doesn't have the gills, he's
The
like,
land man.
yeah,
Ungill
whatever.
man.
Yeah.
Lung man. There we go.
Oh, what's up? Lung man.
Lung
Yeah.
Lung man.
When he's lung man, then he's just really, really strong. But I kind of see him as like a fair matchup to the Frankenstein monster. But you know what? You know what's really interesting? Another way to like other things to bring in on into the table is to like how do they compete against other mortals? So how every movie there's sort of like an like this whole community of villagers that go to attack the monster. So all throughout the Frankenstein series, you got the angry villagers. They come with their torches and they burn the castle down or whatever. Every film, and then in the Wolfman, he's always being chased by people, and even though they might not stop him, they do tend to drive him away. The Mummy, they come after him with the torches all the same. They've burned him to a crisp over and over again. The Gill Man, he usually gets shot at, or like people come after him, and the first two movies, I mean, yeah, that's what happens. He gets shot, and that's what's presumed to kill him for that movie at least. Dracula, on the other hand, nobody wants to go near him. Like there's even a part in Dracula's Daughter when Dracula's daughter returns to Transylvania, and then they all are like, "Oh my God, Dracula's back!" and they all shut their windows and everything. I mean, it goes back to the first movie. It's like, no, don't go to the castle. So Dracula, they never go after him. So that's one thing he has against all the others.
He's got that
But
monster respect, right? Nobody wants to screw
you
with
know
Dracula.
who that's the one person that's not true for is the Wolfman, who wouldn't leave him alone until he killed Dracula.
But only
I mean,
in bat
they
form.
both died, but hey, I'm not going to ignore that part.
Yeah. The Wolfman ain't afraid of anybody.
No,
That's true.
Okay. So
Did you imagine? So you imagine the scenario like the monsters are all like about to fight, and the Wolfman leaps at seemingly nothing and just starts tearing, and blood just starts flying, and everyone's like, "What the fuck just happened?" And it was just like it was an invisible man. All right, let's go. Let's get down to this thing. Like you just like,
all right.
Oh, man.
Well, with all that said, we need to get to the poll. We need to knock out one of these five. Invisible Man's out. We know Wolfman's gonna eviscerate him, right? But of the five that are left, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Mummy, Gilman, and the Wolfman, which one gets knocked out next? Which one dies next? So I think each of us can go through and pick our choice for who dies next. I'm currently torn between Frankenstein's monster and Gilman, just because it seems like they are bringing the least like variety to the table here. My gut is Frankenstein's monster, just based on like lack of instinct, lack of like knowledge, essentially. So I think I'm gonna go Frankenstein. That's my call. But Chad, what do you think?
I was between Wolfman and Gilman, because I think if like Frankenstein's monster or Gilman gets a hold of the Wolfman, they're more powerful and it's over. I think there's gonna be a lot of like slash and jump tactics, but like man,
you gotta pick one.
Fine. I'm sorry since you're here looking at me, but I'm gonna have to pick the Wolfman.
All right. We have one for Wolfman going out. Mr. Wolfman yourself, Mr. Billy, the Wolfman.
Everyone discounts the Wolfman, but he's gone toe to toe with Frankenstein's monster and Dracula. I as much as I hate to say it, I would pick Gilman. I think he's got. Granted, he can survive out of the water longer in the last of the films, but I feel like he's got more limitations.
Okay, well, James, you may be the deciding vote here because we have
well, let's
3
see.
different ideas.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I guess in defense of the Wolfman, I think he's like the underdog, and he's gonna figure out the other monsters one way or another. But the one I'm grappling with to eliminate is like I was thinking the Mummy, but the problem is with all those powers. Like if we're going with like all the crazy powers he has, it's probably not happening. But like the Mummy, I mean, going by the classic Mummy, whether it's the classic Imhotep or Karis, then once you grab a hold of him, I could see the Wolfman chewing off all his bandages. All the monsters can probably dismantle him in some way or another. I don't know, but you know what? Yeah,
You going with
like,
Mummy?
We were putting you on the spot. I love how hard this is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like I would think probably the Mummy. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, because we're
Which
classic Mummy. All right.
Which means we have no
Yeah.
deciding
no
vote here.
deciding factor.
So this
Let's
is going
do
to come
one that
down
we
to
could,
I'm making a poll. I'm making a poll. Who
Yeah.
dies first? So chat, you guys get to decide who's knocked out of the vote. This is not for who wins. This is who is not going to win. Frankenstein's monster, Wolfman, the Gillman, or the Mummy. Who
Also,
gets knocked out first?
While they're deciding that, Key JX with a big super chat says AVGN fan now and forever with a lot of exclamation points. So
yeah. Thank you, KJX. Also, I saw a little while ago, Kendrex, I don't know if you mentioned, gifted a lot of Death Metal memberships. So if you got one of those, thank you, Kendrex. All right. Well, it looks like it's pretty predominantly the Gillman right now. From chat, we got almost 50% voting Gillman is out. So I'm just going to call it there. Gillman is out of the vote, which means we have, for our final confrontation to decide which one would win, we have Dracula, we have Frankenstein's monster, we have the Mummy.
And are we clarifying? Let's clarify the Mummy. Are we doing classic? Is this classic Mummy, or are we allowing all the insane powers?
What do you think, James?
It seems like a different Mummy. I mean, just thinking that it is many generations past, and if we're gonna do that, then I feel like, then could we do like, Coppola's Dracula and like all the different Draculas? Like, I think it opens it up a little too much. So I think it's like we at least, because we already have 2 mummies to contend with. So we got Imhotep and Karis. So I'm thinking it would be within the classic Universal period.
Okay, classic.
You see this, Chad, leave it to the guy repping the man with all the powers to cut out half of our abilities.
All right. So I'm going to bring up the poll. It is now up as the chat is voting for who wins between these 4: Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Mummy, and Wolfman. Let's get our thoughts. So we'll start with Chad.
Well, I was coming in here really rooting for the Mummy because of all of his crazy powers, because I would like to represent the current Mummy. But since we're not doing that, I think it's probably Dracula. I do think the Wolfman's cane plays a big, interesting part, like, because that is a tool on the table to kill 2 very powerful monsters, and like just Frankenstein's monster gets a hold of that thing and rams it through Dracula's heart. Could be the end.
But
I think in terms of general powers,
like he could not. It's possible he just doesn't.
Why would Wolfman bring something that can kill himself into this fight? Is basically
and the cane is never seen again since the first movie. So I think it's kind of like, he had it, but then he gave it to his father, who his father used to kill him, and that's the end of the cane, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm thinking probably Dracula.
All right, James, how about you? What are you thinking of those 4?
That's tough.
Dracula,
to eliminate, right?
Mummy, and Wolfman. And which one wins?
Which one wins out of the 4? Okay.
Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, or Wolfman?
I'm still thinking Wolfman, because he takes down Dracula. He basically takes down the Frankenstein monster, and I bet he'd take down the Mummy. So, yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Not just because he's here, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Billy, you thinking Wolfman?
the Wolfman is the ultimate jobber. I want to say Wolfman, especially because canonically he did take Dracula out, but he took himself out at the same time.
Yeah.
I think in the way we would run things, Dracula probably takes this. Now, again, if you take the modern movies as well, I think both the Mummy and the Wolfman have much stronger chances. But classic, I think Wolfman's going to do better than people think, but I think Dracula takes it.
Wow, the Wolfman himself admits that he loses. Okay. I mean, I got to go with my boy Dracula. Obviously, you know, the king vampire himself, I think is going to be the one literally commanding what happens in this fight. I think it makes the most sense that he can stand back and let the others do what they do best, kill, and then he can just take on whatever's left, or turn them into his own thrall, his own vampiric thrall, and then, you know, that's basically as good as a kill in my opinion, because they are unable to actually do anything against Dracula at that point. They're under his control. So it sounds to me like there's a bit of a split here, but it's looking like Dracula is probably going
wrong. Incorrect. There's only one true winner of this debate, and that is Skeletober. Or Skeletober. Play the asset, Sam. Damn you. Asset.
Skeletober Skelebration. Hello, Skeletor.
Nice.
Okay. Well, now that you're here, Skeletor,
Yes.
you're too late. We already have a winner. The chat has voted.
Oh, well, I
Dracula
can go
wins
rogue because
60%.
I have access to Chad's computer, and I can start my own poll.
Wait, no.
I shall. Who
Can you
wins?
even see with
Skeletober.
no eyes, Skeletor? Are you going to type correctly?
It's very hard to see when you have no eyes. Give me a moment.
Okay. Well, I think we have decided that the winner is Dracula, and that's it. Like, you guys voted, no problem. That's all.
That's a pretty fair one to pick too. You know, Dracula is very powerful, and he's kind of like, he's the first. Well, I mean, I'd say first, but you can go back to Phantom of the Opera. All that. I know Phantom of the Opera would not win, so there's no problem there. But Dracula as like the original talkie 1930s monster is like pretty hard to top.
Well,
and yet he stands before you now. Chad, you've screwed me for 2 straight years. This is my time. Skeletor must win. Skeletober. Good job, Sam. You were ahead of me on that one. I'm proud of you. You've made up for your former failure.
Okay, Skeletor has a new vote in the chat, new poll. Skeletor versus dumb vampire. Noticeably, not Dracula, just a sub-dumb vampire, and you guys are voting that he wins.
I'll do another one. I
Congratulations, Skeletor. You win against some dumb vampire. I'm sure that is very difficult for you.
I'll take my 1 W. Yes. Yes. Skeletor's year.
Okay.
We did it. You didn't fail me. You're all forgiven, except for Ben.
Can we cut Skeletor's mic? Can we get rid of him? Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, James, for joining us on this. This was amazing having you on this.
Big fan, by the way. Love the angry video game nerd. I appreciate the anger.
That's awesome.
And also thank you, Billy, for surviving being turned into the Wolfman.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's you, by the way. You're the Wolfman.
You remind me a lot of Beast Man. I think you guys would get along.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, we do Death Metal Cast every Tuesday at noon Central Standard Time. There's also going to be a VOD on the YouTube channel later on. And you can, of course, join as a member to participate in the chat and get in on the votes. Oh, wow, the vote has actually changed a little bit. Skeletor, you only win by 78% of the vote.
End poll. There we go. Yes.
So thank you all for joining us. We also have a membership exclusive post show that we do that also airs later on in the day. So keep an eye out for that if you are a member, and we will see you all next week. Go check out Cinemassacre and the Angry Video Game Nerd. If for some reason you have no idea who James is, I don't know how you don't. All right, bye everybody.
We did it. Victory finally!